Cool. We are live. All right. Let me just check, and everything looks good. Okay. All right. Awesome. Cool, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, there are no sort of connection issues or anything. Just let us know in the chat if you guys see any problems with audio, video, lagginess, or anything. But awesome. All right. Cool. So, I'll quickly start. So, my name's Mangrover. I'm founder of Outscal, and today we have a special guest with us, Vinay, who was with Outscale almost a year back. It feels like it wasn't that long actually. I today I was thinking and realized that like you guys actually moved out exactly 1 year ago, right?
Yeah,
Last May, June-ish time, right? So actually more than just over a year. So it's been a long journey since then. But cool. So today we'll just talk about pretty much everything gaming oriented. But before we dive in, Vinay, why don't you just sort of introduce yourself to the audience as well?
hey guys. So I'm a game developer. I'm working at Cosi Games right now in Bangalore. So I'm clearly like I was with Mayank last year, and from that my career has gone on the upwards graph. So I'm hoping like I can help you guys with the same.
All right, awesome, cool. So right now you're with Cozy Games, and when you left Outscale, you were with a different company. So tell us about like how your journey has shaped up in the gaming ecosystem in India, and how your experience has been within that last 1 year of now professionally working with two relatively big companies, actually, right? So why don't you share some insights there?
Yeah. So the gaming scale in India is not as big as you will think, but on the other hand, there are a lot of startups. There are a lot of indie game companies. There are a lot of small companies who require such type of game developers. And specifically now is the best time when you can have a lot of
Hmm.
companies around you. Uh, they are sharking around you, and they want um, more and more better game developers.
Yeah.
Currently, what's happening is that there are a lot of people around,
Hmm.
but they don't know game development as you would think,
Hmm.
right? What they do know is like Unity basics and Unity, something that they learn from Bracky's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
What you what everyone needs to know is that it's better if you make games yourself, and it's better that you work around the math of the game itself,
Hmm.
right? For me, from the starting point of view, I was not aware of that particular scenario, that the math of game development. As soon as I joined Outscale, and after coming out of that, I've been introduced with a lot of different concepts, specifically industry-based concepts. Currently, we all learn concepts in our engineering or something like that, and we never applied it, right?
Hmm.
So, but an industry a company uses certain concepts that we use like for every day. Currently, in my company in Cosi Games, what we use is a injection method, dependency injection method.
Hmm.
So every day we create signals, every day we create models, right? But and we inject those models and signals and everything. So there's a framework for each company. In my
Hmm.
previous company in Hyderabad, what we did was we used MVC architecture
Hmm.
only.
Hmm.
We did not use any dependency injection and all. But then suddenly a big project comes in, and you are like, now what should we do, right?
Yeah.
So we have to keep uh, keep modifying the framework accordingly with the uh, company requirement and
Hmm.
according with the project itself.
Hmm.
For me, it's been a pretty like rough ride, I would say,
Hmm.
specifically because there are a lot of things that I had to work on. There are a lot of people, different type of people that I had to work on. But now that I'm working with like four other developers, good developers who know a lot about these things, and specifically because they know about these concepts, we go in up and around and we talk about it a lot.
Hmm.
So in that sense, even when we are like drinking tea somewhere outside, we are talking about this vector 3 magnitude or vector 3 distance or something like that, right? So when that happens, you essentially grow itself by yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think gaming industry is all about, growing using your peers.
So what do you think is like, when you were just starting your career, right? And I would say even before Outscale, and then after actually working with some of these good companies with talented engineers in the industry, right? Like, what was the biggest shock or a thing that you didn't anticipate, that thinking that, oh, gaming would be more fun, chill, but it's more hectic. So what was the biggest shock that you found, that, from outside game world, game development perception, and inside the industry perception, right? Like,
Right. So let me tell you, outside game developer perception requires you to know about, like, hey, what is gaming design? Hey, what
hmm,
what shall we do with this? Is AI? We can create AI, right? This is so simple. And when you go inside the game development, even a single value and a single point is misaligned with your
hmm,
current trail or something like that, right? It really messes you up.
hmm,
Now, as a like, I have this logo in my mind that you have to think twice about the situation, twice about coding,
hmm,
right? You will be solving bugs forever anyway. There are a million bugs that will come up around you.
hmm,
But what's happening is that currently, when I was outside the game development, I was always thinking about, hey, let's make games like PUBG, let's make games like COD, right?
hmm,
But I never thought about that hyper casual games require even mathematics,
hmm,
even good mathematics,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
Even good, each good mechanic, even a single pullback mechanics uh, needs everything to be laid out perfectly,
hmm,
right? And I think it's best to always be in communication with game designer,
hmm.
because the designer asks you to do certain things, and there are certain things that you don't want to do,
Yeah.
right? There's always going to be conflict.
Yeah.
There's always like, why are we doing this? Why are we creating a scriptable object for a single float value? So there are some things that's going to happen, but it's best to communicate more.
Hmm,
And when I'm inside, I'm thinking about, hey, this prototype will take like 3 days or 2 days,
hmm,
but that's just a prototype. That
yeah.
whole game, to develop a single hyper casual game itself,
Hmm,
it will take a month for you to figure out what kind of scenarios you want, what kind of levels you want to come up with,
hmm,
right? And I think balancing levels is something that's game designing is based on.
hmm,
But for ourselves, we have to make mechanics as useful as possible, so that if they change a core mechanic somehow, right? Even if the designer says now you tap a ball instead of swipe a ball,
hmm,
right? The game should work perfectly fine
yeah.
if you just swap it out. So when I was outside, I was thinking, this is very easy. This is just rigid body rod at force. This is just shooting, right?
Hmm,
But now we have to see that, hey, it's not just shooting. We have to get the predicted offset to the AI,
right.
get the predicted path, and then shoot. We
Hmm.
cannot just add force and let physics handle everything.
Yeah, cool. So, but now there are a lot of students who are, reaching out to us for figuring out whether gaming and game development is the right career path for them as well, right? And given the current context that there is so much uncertainty in the rest of the industries, where gaming is one of the few industries that's actually booming, right? So, for people who are just, say, 2020 pass outs, or people who have their job offers sort of taken back, etc., right? So we have started a new batch for specifically focused on 2020 people, and we'll try to finish it in a shorter time so that they become ready to take up some of these job opportunities. So what advice would you give them given the current scenarios? Is this something doable? Because majority people are thinking web development, AI, gaming is not something that people think, right? That they think about playing it, but they don't think about making it. But do you think it's a viable career track now that you've seen the industry, you've worked within it? How would you advise young students just graduating?
The issue is that people think that, hey, now I'm starting in game development. After an year or so, I will look into Gameloft and I will apply a job there, right? So I think what they need to do is need to make more games right now. what's happening is in this current scenario, the best uh, the best thing for all of the developers is that they can work from home, right? Even if they are web developers, even if they are AI, and even if the game developers, doesn't matter. It's all just code, and you can work from home. You can work remotely with other teams, and specifically like Zoom and Meet, you can communicate with them and work
Yeah.
on your thing as well,
Yeah.
right? So in this 2020 right now, I think either working from home, or if you are going to office by chance, or even if you're a student, I think this is the best time, because you have gained like you are not going to go outside, you're not going to do feeble tasks, and you're not going to like waste your time in somehow. I think at this point, even the recruiters are hiring remote developers, because
Yeah.
they are like thinking, hey, what if this coronavirus does not go down, and what if this other country suddenly puts on lockdown?
Yeah.
What do we do? So I think this is evolving in a way that all the developers are like thinking and mutually dependent on each other to make a project. And like remote work is better, some better for us as well. We are not going to be like a sales executive who does not know what to do and what to do, and talk to other people, right? We are given a task and we have to finish it out.
Yeah.
So in this era, in this scenario right now, uh, I think remote development is a very uh, it's a very good thing and a very efficient thing right now. Specifically with the companies right now, what's happening is that companies are looking out for you as well. They don't want you to come in,
Yeah.
right? They don't want you to come in and be like, hey, I'm a developer, I can work 12 hours, but they don't want you to come in. They want you to be in a work from home itself. And for game development, I think there are a lot of companies who are looking out for game development. I see myself as my family plays a lot of games, right? Even my mom, dad, everyone plays phone mobile games, right? And Candy Crush and everything.
Yeah.
So even I was approached by some recruiters about asking, hey, can you make a game for us in 1 month? Even though they did not have a designer or anything, but still there are opportunities lurking outside. And in this space, in this current scenario, I think there are a lot of opportunities for even young developers.
Are you seeing companies sort of increasing their hiring in terms of developers just because the gaming is booming, everybody's bringing games onto their platform as well? How are you seeing that play out? I mean, I'm discussing with a lot of recruiters on our side, so I can share my insight, but I'd like to understand your perspective, how you're seeing on the ground floor things happening in Bangalore as well.
So at the ground level, I think most of the companies who are hiring right now are looking for remote developers, and they want those developers to be good. So it's not like you were like, hey, I could not make this because I was not aware of this particular scenario. I was not aware of this particular storyboard. But instead, you need to like make stuff to know stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's the core of game development. You have to make stuff to know stuff. You are thinking about making PUBG. Okay, let's start very small. Let's start with the shooting mechanics. You are thinking about making a Dota. Let's start with the basic strategy mechanic. Let's start with pathfinding, right? So it, when you are thinking about making something, just have to make sure that, hey, I would be able to make this, but I have to determine my task indefinitely and determine my task according to my schedule. I think there are a lot of college students who have nothing to do right now,
Yeah.
right? There are a lot of even people in the game development industry, even people in the game development industry, what they are doing is, there are some developers who work, there are some developers who are like, who have a 3 hours of day work, right? Because in big companies there are a lot of work, but they cannot do like there are 20 developers working on a single project, but each developer has maximum 3 hours of work into it. So the other time you can use it to make your own games.
Yeah.
And I think this is the best because here no one will judge you.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point because even if you are currently working in some other industry and looking to switch, right, using that free time that earlier you used to probably uh, go to office and come back and waste time traveling and all, right? So you could use that time to actually work on projects and build projects and add to your portfolio, right? Like we always emphasize, and you know this personally, right? Like how much I emphasize on have a GitHub account on day one, right? Like create a
Yeah,
GitHub account, even if you're thinking of entering into a BTech program, right? Like not towards the end, but when you're starting, create a GitHub account, put up everything there, no matter what, small, big, start putting it up, start showcasing your projects, right? So I think that's a very valid point as well. Uh, cool. So can you share us some information on the kind of projects that you're working now with Cosi, or are they not announced yet? Are they like secret or something, or can you share some details?
um, let's say that we have explored hyper casual space.
Hmm.
We have also we already have a thing in casual currently,
Hmm.
and I'm damn sure that at the end of June we are going to release 2 games at least,
Hmm.
and hopefully those games are going to do good because like I worked on it. so so there are there are simple games, not huge mechanic based games,
Hmm.
but there are things that we have to manage according to the user. So
Hmm.
the mechanics change according to the user as well.
Right.
So I'm hoping that these things work out somehow.
Hmm. Okay. Got it. Got it. But not yet announced then, I guess, right?
Yeah, I cannot announce it yet because yeah,
Okay. Cool.
I can give you one hint that
Hmm.
the game is already on Play Store
Hmm.
because we have to go through Play Store
Yeah.
reviews and everything.
Yeah.
So we just keep updating it.
Hmm. Okay. But is it? It's not public there, right? I'm guessing it's in beta testing or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
It's
So
in. It's not in India.
okay, got it. Cool. So, how was your overall experience while interviewing with companies and the different kind of companies, some small, some big, some almost indie size studios and all, right? So what was across the spectrum your experience interviewing with a lot of these game companies?
So the biggest quality I saw was in developers itself.
Hmm.
There are a lot of project managers who don't know what gaming is. They
Hmm.
are project managers because they were project manager in some other company, and this company was hiring project managers,
Hmm.
right? But there are developers who know a lot of stuff. There
Hmm.
are developers who know a lot about game design and everything. But the upper tier, the project management, is not very amazing, I would say. It's
Hmm.
not very good as well. It's just an okayish level
Hmm.
where you are, when the project manager is asking you to make a, a huge game in an RPG game in a single month, and you're working on your butt off to finish the deadline, to reach the
Hmm.
deadline.
Hmm.
And then of course, even if you work on like work on something for 2 hours, there's going to be bug anyway,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You're not going to be sure about, hey, that I have worked it completely. Even
Hmm.
for loop has bugs sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of people use for loop with I plus plus
Hmm.
and not plus plus I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So what I mean is that there are good developers, there are
Hmm.
good project managers, but there is a chance that you will meet them 30% of your life.
Hmm.
Other 70% you will only meet bad developers or bad project managers, or the decision taking administration is not very well versed in game development in India.
Hmm.
That's what my experience has been.
Hmm.
There is for at my current company there is like a technical lead and a project manager. They talk about everything, and even though there is a crunch, but I think it's a good space because the project manager understands that, hey, developers need time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hey, developers need a week to solve bugs,
Yeah.
and we cannot just ask them to, hey, change the framework for a single design change.
Got it. But from
So
like you mentioned that there were some engineers that were good, and so during the interview process, what kind of interviews have you like have you seen from an engineering perspective? Were they like super heavy on say C sharp and Unity side? Were they equally heavy on sort of algorithm and problem solving? Like what is the balance, and how have you sort of seen these interviews? Let's say just start at Cozy because that's the most recent one that you have given, right? So why don't you just tell us a little bit about the interview experience there itself?
So there are three parts of interview which I've seen everywhere. So first is the basic Unity part where everyone is like, hey, what is coroutines? What are monobehaviors and everything,
Yeah.
right? And the second part is the C sharp part, which is everyone is uh, everyone is looking into. It's mainly about system.action. What is action and what are events? What are callbacks and everything.
Yeah.
The third part is the problem solving, the data solving that you talked about. So the third part actually entails data structures,
Yeah.
which the uh, recruitment development and any other department looks heavily into. So they are looking for, hey, if I ask you to shoot a wall and then reflect, would you use vector 3 dot reflect or would you use some other code, right? How would you calculate an angle between two vectors and everything like that. So I think if you can score good in those problem solving data structures, less stacks, queues, and that particular space, then you would be able to crack any sort of interview. Unity is something that you can learn causing brackeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But C sharp and data structures, that you have to learn by doing. So even if any person who I know, anyone, even if it's from triple E or EC, if I ask him about stack and queues, he will easily say LIFO and FIFO, LIFO and FIFO, nothing like that. That's it. Like, you should not use LIFO and FIFO. You should if you're talking in an interview, you should talk to them about where is stack based in memory, right? Why would I use stack in some scenarios, and why would I use
Correct.
queue in other scenarios?
Yeah.
So, and in that sense, that would be great. So there are things like object pooling and everything, so where these data structures matter a lot. A lot of people use list in object pooling, a lot of people use stacks in object pooling, right? So I think in this recruitment space, uh, data structures matter more than your Unity basics, because you can work on any other game engine that they have.
Yeah.
If you have good
Right.
problem solving and data structure
Right.
skills.
I think now the way we have structured the program as well, right? Like out of the 6 months of the program, almost 2.5 to 3 months is purely focused on just data structures and algorithms, because that's so much fundamental to the problem solving is so much fundamental. Tomorrow you want to become an Unreal developer, or you enter in a company that suddenly starts using Unreal for some project. I'm seeing so many companies that are now hiring for Coco specifically, right? They want smaller size games, and Unity's size games are not that small in size, right? So, like that pattern is basically, keeps things more versatile and gives you more options in your career to evolve as well, right? So you can jump from one company to another very easily if you have that fundamental data structure knowledge. And I don't know about you, but I personally prefer that people learn data structure through C++, even though Unity focuses C sharp. But having C++ and data structure, especially for game developers, become very good, because suddenly you go into a bigger company like Ubisoft and any other bigger names that have their own proprietary engine or are using CryEngine or something else. All of them are working on C++, right? So having both C sharp and C++ in your tool set usually, I think, adds a lot of benefit to devs who are trying to look for new opportunities, etc. as well. So that is also usually very helpful.
I think that's what most of the technical interview look about, is that people have enough skills to actually work with them, because they are the people who are going to work with new developers. They are the people who have these departmental developers who are going to take up some project and everything.
Yeah.
So for each new employee, there's a probation period for 3 months, right? You can learn about Unity in a single month itself. But about the problem solving and data structures, you cannot learn in single month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if your program offers 3 months, and that's an extensive, quick program.
Yeah.
Right? If you ask someone, is 3 months enough for data structures? I would not say
Oh,
yes.
yeah, no. It's like
Of
you could probably spend 3 years, right, and still
Yeah,
not be enough,
exactly.
right? Like
Exactly.
it's just that it's kind of a topic that you can keep going deeper, deeper, deeper into. there's no end to that, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
But since you are propelling the new students with data structure mentality, then hey, learn about this first and then move on to Unity.
yeah,
You're not going to make a game uh, like just typing on
yeah,
VS Code. You need to learn data structures first. You need to learn algorithms first. Even if that's not what young people are looking, but they are looking at, hey, I can make this game. It's very easy.
yeah,
It's not a big thing. You have to do a grappling hook. You have to shoot where and then just attach the rigid body. No, it does not work that way. it's
yeah,
going to it's going to be very hard for you because you need to reset that but previous position. You need to reset those things. And specifically if you're working in a multiplayer space, multiplayer environment, I think data structures are the
oh yeah,
base of multiplayer.
yeah, yeah. If you, especially if you want to ever touch anything on the back end, on the server side or anything, right, for any of the games, it's super important to know your data structures. And then your data structures become suddenly, you implement them in JavaScript or maybe Python or Java, whatever is the language that your team is using on the back end for the server technology, right? So that's where having skills that can actually translate and being versatile is also very important, right, from a developer's perspective. So generally, I think you mentioned that uh, you had a little bit of a struggle initially with different kinds of people, right? I know we are slightly talking a little bit now more of a people thing, but I think this is something that developers should think about as well, not just okay, what can I do just to get into an interview and clear the interview. There is real things on what you should be looking for in a company when you interview with them, right, which majority developers regret later, right? And I know based on your past experience as well, right, that there were certain unfortunate things where you had interacted with people that were not very professional in nature, right? uh, Now looking back on those experience, can you share some insights for students that when they are interviewing with game companies, right, especially startups or smaller companies, what are the things that they should ask these companies, and what are the things that they should try to figure out before they say yes to join a company as well? Because I think that also impacts your career growth as well, right? Like if you start working with a great team, suddenly your career is rocket, right? And if you start working with a team that's not that professional or not that great, then while you might be doing good, but obviously your growth won't be as great as it would have been otherwise, right? So how would you today, if you had to interview with newer startup companies and all, right, how would you go about trying to figure that out, that is this company good, is this company should I take their offer or not, right? Like how would you think about that?
So first of all, what I do is research, extensive research about the company itself.
Hmm.
Like, hey, what is the company's into? Is
Hmm.
it like a solutions company or a project company?
Hmm.
So that you have to make in mind, right? If it's a solution company, it would be client based, and if the client says something, there's going to be crunch time,
Hmm.
and if the team is not equipped with proper tools, they cannot work around with crunch time, and you would have to go home and still work on it for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, and the next thing I would look into is the interviewer itself.
Hmm.
Is the interviewer asking me good questions? Like there are sometimes you are thinking, hey, he is only asking me about Unity.
Hmm.
Maybe he does not know. If it's a technical interview,
Hmm.
and you are not being asked C sharp and not being asked enough data structure questions,
Hmm.
and you are only asked like basic data structure questions like what is stack and what is queues,
Hmm.
but not something that makes your brain go.
Yeah.
Then you have to think, hey, maybe he does not know enough,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then I think you need to ask them, hey, what kind of framework they use? Do they know about different architectures?
Hmm.
How many games they have developed? How many games are successful? If you're having a conversation with a product manager, always keep in mind about the. It's better to ask about crunch time right now in
Hmm.
the interview rather than being like, hey, why I'm waiting for like 12 hours. You just have to because you are an employee. No, no, that's not what and being an employee means. Being an employee means you are flexible, but does not mean you are going to stay at office.
Yeah.
So uh, these questions need to be asked, and as well the product manager. How do they know about sprints? Do they follow agile method? Uh, what kind of thing? What kind of tool do project managers use? Do they use Asana, Jira, or maybe Trello? So if they say we use Excel sheets, that's a red flag. Excel sheets is a red flag.
Yeah.
Because Excel sheets means that they are working in the past, right? So for in Cosi space, we use Asana, right? Asana to track our daily tasks and everything.
Right.
And in that sense, the other developers as well, if they are if, how many developers are there in a team, it counts a lot. So if there are 10 developers in a team, but they have only the company has only published like 10 games or 5 games only in the course of 5 years, that means there are 10 developers who are working like working on 10 games in 5 years. That's a very less amount, specifically if the games are casual or hyper casual
Right.
space.
Right.
That means their decision taking ability is not very good. They're always like refixing the games or something like that. So there was initially a company when I was being interviewed. So they only work with bubble pop games. So all the games were had bubble pop. There was no innovation and no room to grow. That's what I thought initially, right? And when I talked to their developers, they were like, no, it's fine, it's fine. But when I got placed into another company, their developers kept asking me, "Hey, do you have space for another guy? Is your company hiring?" So there are some developers who want to get out of these particular small traps. I would say not companies. So what they do is they keep the credit to the administration to the upper level, while they do not want the developers to work a lot. They don't want to developers they don't want developers to work on something new as well. So there are two things you need to balance, that hey, you're working on something new and you're working not more than required time. So if these two things are there, I think a developer would be good enough. A developer would be happy to work at some
Yeah.
place like that.
Yeah. I think the thing that you mentioned regarding the technical interview, right? Like I think that was very important because if your technical interviewer is asking you deep technical questions and you have to think about answering them, right? That gives you knowledge that okay, when you're in the job working with this team, you'll be challenged every day to come up with new solutions to new problems, and it will be a fun, exciting place to work. But if they're just asking definition questions, then more or less like they probably don't have somebody super senior who will be your coach, who will be your mentor when you are working on these projects as well, right? So most of the times things will kind of fall on your head, and usually that's one thing that I recommend to students, that check who are all the employees in the company and see who will be like a senior engineer, senior to you relatively, right? Who will be senior to you that you will take guidance from once you're in the company. If you have somebody senior that is very knowledgeable, you'll have chances to grow, right? Even if the company is not doing good, but because you have somebody to reach out to for help, for guidance, for mentorship, you'll always be able to grow, right? And then maybe 1 year 2 years from there you can change jobs as well, right? Like that keeps happening left and right every day. So it's not that big a problem, but always look whether you have somebody senior. I think that helps a lot. And so now that you're in your full-time job, right? How do you go from there? Like, how are you thinking about your career trajectory for the long term? I think that's one question that I get a lot. That maybe we'll get one job, but then what about stability over the long run, right? Like, will I still become stay a game developer for the next 5 years or 10 years, etc.? So, how do you see that now taking shape? Given India's sort of growth trajectory in the gaming space overall.
So I think thinking about my career, what I think about is I don't want to make mobile games all the time. what I think about is, hey, let's make a game for PC first, and then for PlayStation, and then probably sometime for PS5. So what
Yeah.
happens is, you think about making games, and when you start making games, it really grows on you.
Hmm.
So uh, what I do is, one of my hobby projects, what I'm doing is, let's say I'm making a stealth-based game,
Hmm.
right? So this stealth-based game I'm keeping in mind that this game is can be used for mobile, can be used for PC, can be used for even VR.
Hmm.
So in that sense, I've taken up this huge amount of tasks on myself that I can complete in like 1 year, 2 year, doesn't matter. But for me, that this is something that I would recommend for everyone to do, because what this makes is, this happens that you grow stale in your career. You
Hmm.
grow like, you have a good job, and suddenly you are like, ah, this is a good enough job, this is good, let's settle around here,
Yeah.
right? But I would recommend that, uh, even if you don't have any like some issues which are bothering you, I would say that you need to go as far as you can.
Hmm.
So for me, if I am Bangalore currently, I'm not thinking about settling in Bangalore.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about, hey, what if I I gain some good experience, I gain some enough knowledge, and then move outside of India, and then work
Hmm.
around there, and then think about what to do next.
Hmm.
So currently, I have a short term goal, which is basically gaining experience. I have a short term goal, which is making some projects. I
Hmm.
have a short term goal, which is like moving outside of India to
Hmm.
to explore other spaces, not just because
Hmm.
it's outside India, but to be clear about what is going on in South Korea right now.
Hmm.
South Korea is using a lot of RPG games, right?
Yeah.
A small pixelization version of RPG games,
Right.
while US is mainly focusing on, like Voodoo is focusing on casual space, while the other indie games are focusing on Steam.
Hmm.
So uh, I I have never encountered anyone who is making Steam games in India right now.
Hmm. I
Right?
know two, yeah, three studios probably, but yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So this is all over India,
Hmm.
while everyone is making mobile games. So this is something I need to explore. This is something I need to work on.
Hmm.
And I think what I do is, so I go on LinkedIn, I search for a job based on Unity developer worldwide,
Hmm.
right? I see what kind of experience the outside people want, what kind of things they want me to know.
Hmm.
So I see, hey, do I know like uh, 3D journalization? Do I know something like this?
Hmm.
Do I know something like this? Would I be a good fit at this job? If I'm not a good fit at this job, that means that I need to work harder. I
Yeah.
need to learn a lot more things. So that's what keeps me going in this game development industry. And even though there are a lot of uh, ways where I can go, like I can go into game development, I can go anywhere as well.
Hmm.
But the reason I chose game development was because I'm doing the same coding as web development guy, but my character looks cooler.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a very valid point, right? Like
yeah,
people think that they're making like they're doing more challenging, technically challenging work when they're making Android apps or web applications, but actually they don't realize that gaming is actually harder in terms of technical challenge.
exactly,
It's
yeah,
very harder compared to web development, and you
right.
need the same amount of data structures, the same amount of algorithm and C++, C sharp knowledge, OOPS concepts, if not same, actually you need more than that,
No,
right? So somehow I feel like that there is a very big misconception around this topic, that how much technically challenging the actual industry is,
I
right?
think because gaming is a leisure activity,
Yeah.
people think game development as a leisure activity as well,
I think
right?
there is some stigma as well, right? Like when parents say, ah, oh, game, like
देखो game
who,
बनाता
ये
है.
game कौन बनाता है, right? Like so, majority audience and so, that mentality is now changing, but still there is some stigma, like you said, right? It's considered a leisure, fun time activity versus a serious career where you can actually be professional, right? Like I don't know
Very
why,
tough,
but
very
yeah.
tough.
Yeah. It's actually much harder, right? Like
Yeah,
because like everybody in when you were here in Outscale, like everybody in your group, everybody had done Android, everybody had done some iOS, some web, explored a lot of different things. You were specifically focused on a lot of VR stuff as well. So, you know, I think everybody was like, कि नहीं यार, gaming is actually tougher than majority other things, and
Yeah.
technically very satisfying once you see your game playing and people experiencing your game, right? Like whether it's a hyper casual game or it's a hardcore RPG, I think it's a very satisfying feeling versus, oh,
I think the other development areas like web development and AI development, what happens is in web development you are making something which is user is going to press buttons and like making the UI extensive.
hmm,
The core functionality would be pressing buttons, you pressing submit and everything else, like
hmm,
clicking and everything. While in game development, you are making a core mechanic itself. You are making the user swipe away. You are making the user shoot. You are making the character do a lot of kinds of stuff,
hmm,
right? Even the animations starting. If you just remove the coding part from game development, the animations, the artists,
yeah,
and the 2D, the UI, the prefabs, and everything that goes into it does not always it's not always code dependent, but it's still very extensive process.
hmm,
It's still a great pipeline, right? So even if I'm not opening Unity,
hmm,
even if I'm working with cubes and spheres, there's a lot that I think that I have to code to just make that cube and sphere work around
yeah.
like AI and player.
So the way I usually, say summarize this in one sentence is like, web and AI is like you're building a baby, right? Like you're giving birth to a baby, and gaming is like you're giving birth to a baby with a soul, right? Like there is a soul and a heart inside it. It's a living, breathing thing that people will experience, and they'll have an emotional connection. Versus here, it's like, okay, if I'm in the Gmail app, I'm just getting my work done. If I'm in the calendar app, I'm getting my work done. If I'm on Zoom, I'm getting my work done, right? Like there isn't a connection, and that's where a lot of web companies and software companies are looking into what gaming has done to take those things back so that they can build that connection, because that connections is like unbeatable, right? Nobody sits on Zoom idly, right? But people keep PUBG open just waiting for their friends to come on, right? Why? Because
Exactly.
they have that connection, they have that soul, that experience, right? So I think that's where having gaming as a thing is like completely different altogether. And then that's why the reason, like, I've spent more than 8+ years now in this fucking industry, and I'm still not leaving, right? Because I know that, once you're hooked, right? And there is
Yeah.
a lot of opportunity for
Even if
uh,
like there are some hobby projects which you made to learn a particular concept,
hmm,
you want to keep it going. You want to like
yeah,
publish it somehow.
right,
So there are GitHub projects that I want to revive
hmm,
and publish it, but there's no space for it right now. But that's something that I always think about.
hmm,
It's not something like, hey, let's use this button again. Nah, nah, nah. Let's use the project again, that revive in another way, revamp it,
yeah,
and then publish it.
yeah.
That's what we keep thinking. That's what game development is all about.
Hmm, true. And I think now, especially now, what I'm seeing is that the same game tools that you guys use in the industry, right? Like Unity, Unreal, and Cocos, and other simulation software and all, the opportunity scope has increased because now so many other companies are using these. You have so many marketing firms, huge marketing firms that are running AR VR, campaigns, and building AR VR products for Nike and Adidas and whatnot, right? And then you have Tesla and some of these top tier. By no chance somebody would categorize them as game companies, right? Tesla and some companies under Google umbrella, they're building pure play AI, and every AI based company is hiring game developers as well, right? Because they want to use the same technology that goes into GTA to actually build the world, 3D world in which they can run their AI and test simulations as well. Have you like interacted with any of the folks in these kind of domains, or learned anything around how the same tools are getting used in these different verticals, that 2-3 year experienced person could actually transition into some of these companies as well?
I think like for us, Unity has been a great tool because it's always allows us to work with HTML5 games,
Hmm.
which are always allowed to work with VR and mobile and Steam and everything else. So I think, and Unity, when they opt into like ML agent space,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So they are starting to work with AI. So
Yeah.
what I thought was there is a lot of area of expertise and there is a lot of area of applications for this particular tool,
Hmm.
Unity tool, right? And so if you are able to work with this Unity and if you are able to learn a lot of C sharp specifically, then you can be working in like Flipkart and creating AI for it as well.
Hmm.
There is a games tab in Flipkart app.
Yeah.
So I think these small games, even if they are small games, they are going into major big companies
Hmm.
because they want the users to stay online at their app.
Yeah.
They want the user to stay online, and as well as the app to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
There are sometimes the users just don't feel like opening the app. They want the
Yeah.
app to stay relevant as well. So the gaming industry has also seeped into this e-commercial based industries as well.
Hmm. No, I think we are absolutely correct. So Paytm has their own games team now. Flipkart has, like you said, like within their app. Every big app or company that you can think of has some form of integrated games onto their platform, right? So either they are directly working with other game companies that are building games for them, or they're internally hiring game developers internally to build them as well, right? So Snapchat, Swiggy is added the gaming tab as well.
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody wants gaming on the platform because they know that games is how they build connection with the audience, right? Like they keep sort of
Yes.
audience engaged. So I think that's where the sort of platform is growing as well. There's one question: which platform did you use? I'm not sure what the question is, but I'm guessing it's talking about the Unity versus Unreal platform. So I think Vinay, you guys are using Unity, right?
Yeah, yeah. We are using Unity and
Yeah.
we are building for mobile platforms like iOS and Android,
Hmm.
basically.
So in the for Cosi, you guys are using Unity, but before this, you were at not Game Shastra. Um, what was the name of the company in Hyderabad?
SmartWiz X.
Huh. So which one? What platform were you using there as well? That was also Unity again, right?
Unity and Unreal both, basically.
Oh, you there
So
was Unreal as well.
Unreal, basically because that was an architecture-based company and Unreal
Hmm.
had better graphics.
Hmm.
There was no HDB at that time in Unity.
Hmm.
So Unreal had better graphics and better, I would say, reflection probes.
Hmm.
So what happened was we were used to build using blueprints,
Hmm.
like add in basic functionality using blueprints in Unreal,
Hmm.
while other functionalities, if we needed, were added via code.
Hmm.
But mostly blueprints did all the work in
Hmm.
Unreal. And if there is something that is like something that is very extensive,
Hmm.
so we use Unity for that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Got it.
and if it's not very graphic based,
Hmm.
then we only use Unity. Unity was a much better tool at because we were all I would say familiar with it
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than Unreal,
Yeah.
because Unreal C++ was weird for us to work on a lot.
Yeah. So I think Shikhar is asking that Unity is still not supporting Facebook instant games. Yeah. Anything on
I
that?
think Unity will support it in the future,
Hmm.
but it's just that there is Facebook Game Room if you want
Hmm.
for Unity.
Hmm.
But instant games is something that Facebook is very new as well,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So Facebook is always creating an SDK, and I think when Facebook creates an SDK for Unity, then Unity will start supporting it. It's
Yeah.
something like when Facebook recognizes Unity as a valid platform for us to build games, then it will recognize,
Yeah. I
it
think
will add that SDK.
I mean there is a Facebook SDK for regular mobile games when you have to connect to and publish updates on Facebook and all. I don't know whether the messenger games or the instant games category fits in there. We'll have to check, but I don't think that's the case yet because I think those are pure play HTML5 games, and I think Unity's Unity Tiny project that even you experimented with a little bit, right, last year. So that is the one that is going in that direction that they want to bring in JavaScript and TypeScript.
I think with dots, Unity has started to
Yeah.
like rebuild its framework and revamp it so that it can support multiple platforms.
Hmm.
And when that is still, if that is still under review and still under preview, that means that maybe in 1 or 2 years, Facebook will be supported, like instant games will be supported as
Hmm. Yeah.
well. And Facebook developer, as a Facebook developer and Facebook development
Hmm.
progress, no, process is very tedious, I think,
Hmm.
because Facebook has to go through with these and these like forms, applications, and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there is just a login SDK. Yeah, Shikhar. Yeah, I think that's correct. Cool. There's one more question. Did you start off from Unity developer when you were first placed from Outscale? I'm not sure, Asas, I understand the question exactly. I'm guessing Asas is I trying to ask, you directly started with Unity or were you doing some other at like while you were at Outscale? I'm guessing that's the question.
I started with Unity itself by myself,
Hmm.
and like from Outscale, I also got a Unity developer position. So Unity has always been through me.
Hmm.
And there was one time that I used Unreal in my first job during SmartWays before I joined Outscale,
Hmm.
but mostly it's been Unity only.
Yeah, I think Unity is, at least in the Indian um, job market context, Unity has been a lot more popular, right? Just because
Yes,
it's more friendly to build for the mobile environment specifically, right?
yes,
The average size of the APK is smaller, and given the Indian market context, I think that's also important to understand, right? Because obviously, a company, if they are hiring a team of developers, they need to pay salaries, so they need to make money in order to make it a viable business, right? So for that, they need to understand who they are building the games for, and if you're building it for the Indian audience,
I think
majority of
uh,
them are on mobile.
among like 100 developers, there would be 80 Unity developers and 20 Unreal developers, right,
Mm.
in India.
I would say 90-10.
90
I would
10.
say even further away, right? Like
Yeah,
hardly 10 people would be Unity, and even out of those 10, 8 would be like who know Unreal and Unity both.
both.
Right? Like there are very few people who are like, no, no, I am only Unreal. I don't do anything else, right? Just because
Yes.
the job opportunities for Unreal only are very less compared to Unity or Unreal hybrid kind of roles, or just pure play Unity. If you just know Unity, that's also a good opportunity. But yeah, was your first job in Unity? Yeah, okay. I think we already answered that. Cool, awesome. So I think it covers all the questions. When any other sort of advice in terms of students who are just graduating, especially 2020 job offers getting rescinded, and maybe even broader, just not specific to game developers, but even broader, if somebody is graduating now or looking for job opportunities, what would be your advice be?
I think the first thing they should look for is internships.
Hmm.
To be honest,
Hmm.
like if you are, because if you have a 3 month space to graduate, like
Hmm.
after 3 months you are going to graduate, right? So I think for these 3 months or for a single 2 month period, I think you should look for an internship so that you are familiar with the work environment, how work life works
Hmm.
according to you and with your schedule. It's not like you're going to stay up at 2 a.m. and then like college students usually do, right? They stay up till 2 a.m. and then wake up at 12 p.m.
Hmm.
So that's not going to work with any of the schedule right now.
Yeah.
So internship, using an internship, that will provide you much better with the specifics of a work life.
Hmm.
But if you have already graduated, I think as soon as you join, you need to there would be a 1 month program for you, 1 month not program duration for you to settle into this particular space. It's work from home is entirely new to the Indian industries,
Hmm.
all industries, not just gaming industry,
Yeah.
right? So since work from home for 2020 is essential, is quintessential basically right now.
Yeah.
So uh, I think for them to settle into this workspace, it does not mean that be less professional.
Hmm.
It only means that you need to be more professional at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, that's very good point because
And
there's too
and
many people getting laid
and
off as
when
well.
yeah, exactly. And when you go to work, it's not like give me more work and everything.
Yeah.
It's good to be hungry, but it's not that at some point you annoy your superiors and they are dumping all their work on you. So
Yeah.
that's something that people need to understand, that there can be good or bad superiors, there can be good or bad teammates.
Hmm.
It's always better to be in a space that where you don't feel that your mental health is being affected by this,
Hmm.
by the work. You're not taking too much stress.
Hmm.
You need to be in a space where you know that you're learning something. It's not going to happen in 1 month itself.
Yeah.
You have to stay for 2 or 3 months to actually evaluate that, hey, I'm learning or not.
Yeah.
Maybe in the first month you did not learn anything. That doesn't mean the company is bad.
Hmm.
Maybe after 3 months or something that long, you are able to learn something new.
Yeah.
So it's, I would say, have patience, because
Hmm.
patience is very necessary for a new employee, for a new person. Patience is very necessary because they need to get familiarized with the workings of their particular project.
Yeah. I
I
think
think that's it.
along with patience, I'll add one more thing there, which is communication, right? I think we briefly touched on it before, but even now, because people are working remotely, right? Over communication is important. So earlier it was like, okay, if you're in the job on in the office, face to face, you can communicate okay level and still be fine because people can come to your desk wherever you're sitting and quickly ask you something. But now that you're like in your own houses and somewhere else in different cities, over communication is very important, right? Like even if there is smallest of things, just like use the internal chat platform that the company is using or whatever it is, right? Like just communicate, 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 because that's going to be the key in order to keep you successful.
So for me as well, like I've in a single day I have over 5 calls, at least 5 calls in a day. First is a scrum, and then few calls with artists, few calls with designer, just to
Mm.
make sure that the artist gives me texture which is like 1024 cross 1024, while the designer is sure that what I have added in scriptable object is basically for him. I have
Yeah.
not added anything else than what he needs to change.
Hmm.
I need to screen share and show him how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what initially what we did from face to face. He would just come over my seat and just see me doing it.
Hmm.
Now there are a lot of I think that calls are very important. Those calls, because if you start working on something and designer says let's go with swipe mechanics,
Hmm.
but it does not tell you that swipe mechanics can also the speed should be constant or not, the speed should go along with the swipe or not, and you work on it for like 2 hours and then give it back to the designer. The designer would say no, the speed should always be constant. That was a given.
Yeah.
That's actually not a given.
Yeah.
That's something that you have to talk to him about. So
Yeah.
I think whenever you're starting working with any sort of uh, gameplay or any sort of coding,
Hmm.
you need to talk to artist, talk to your UI artist or whoever it is, and the designer. The
Hmm.
designer is very important because it's mostly the designer who is like, I did not want this, but you made this. So it's something that you need to understand about that.
Hmm. Cool. I think somebody is asking, can you show us what can be done with Unity Engine? Like I heard signal pattern. Could you show us an example? I think example would not be possible to see now, but what I'll encourage you to do is, Aditya, that go to github.com/outscale and you'll see some of the projects Vinay has worked on before as well when he was part of Outscale as well, and other projects that other students have done. So you'll see those things there and you can definitely check them out. Everything is open source and still available.
Yeah,
So feel free to check those projects out.
but
Uh,
like I have a different pattern in my current framework, current
hmm.
Cosi games, but I cannot show you that because that's of course
Yeah,
a core
correct.
framework of Cosi games itself.
Correct, correct.
So, but I think dependency injection or signal pattern, if you want to work on it,
Hmm.
start from Zenject. Zenject is the best,
Hmm.
like beginner friendly for now.
Hmm.
And I think most, if you are familiar with Zenject, you are familiar with most other patterns because that's how they work.
Yeah, yeah. I think Zenject is still steps ahead. I would still start with something very basic, such as an
Yeah,
actions,
start with very
events,
basic.
and just getting the basics down first. But yeah, cool, right? Awesome. I think we're just out of time. So thanks, Vinay, for coming on board. And think hopefully the everybody in the group learned something about the industry. We talked a little bit about tech and non-tech and art and everything else. So it was a hopefully it was an insightful chat as well. Anybody who's in the chat, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop them in our Discord community. Vinay is actually there as well, so whenever he's online, usually he's online. So you know you can just drop in your questions there as well. And yeah, awesome. Right, cool. Thanks Vinay for joining in. Hopefully we'll do this again
All right. Bye,
once in
guys.
6 months, something like that, and then keep checking in on progress, how you're making, and how's the industry shaping up. All right, awesome. Cool, guys. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully I'll see you guys again next week for another webinar. All right, see you guys. Bye.